So I rented a bunch of special tools from AutoZone just to help me make my job easier. I have a ball joint separator, torque wrench so that I can torque my axle nut or spindle nut. I do have a torque wrench, but I don't have one that goes all the way up to 250 foot-pounds. And this axle nut for the Type S actually needs about 184 foot-pounds or something like that. So another thing that I have is a ball joint press. So this will help me get the old ball joint out and the new one in. So this here is a master ball joint installer remover adapter set. So what this has is all kinds of different sizes to fit, I would say, pretty much any ball joint out there. Then lastly, what I got is an 8-piece axle nut socket set. And really the only one I need from this is the 36mm socket. I also rented a couple of other tools for my rear brake calipers, which I still haven't installed. I have this this brake caliper tool set, so just to help me get that caliper back in, because it's kind of tricky doing it with a what's it called, a screwdriver. And then of course I got a bunch of other things like a ball joint separator, just in case I don't have any luck with the other one, a tie rod puller, and a front wheel drive hub puller. I have 2 sway bar end links that I got straight from Honda. I like to get my parts straight from Honda just so I can make sure that I'm getting the best quality possible. Unfortunately, Honda does not sell ball joints, so I had to get these aftermarket, but I've actually heard that these are better than factory ball joints, and you can actually refill them with grease, so that's pretty good. Of course, I have the wheel spacers, which I think I can get them on myself, which means I have to get these in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna knock the old ones out with a hammer. Hopefully I can do that, and then screw these in by using a torque wrench and an open-ended lug nut. 2 tie rod ends, I guess you can call them that. So I'm gonna be replacing those. I'm thinking about whether I should, well, I guess once I check the rear suspension and see how the bushings and everything are back there, I'll decide whether I get an alignment right after I do this job. But I'm definitely gonna get an alignment. Always get an alignment where you're doing suspension, especially when you're doing all this. I have a few more nuts and hardware for my valve cover, and I also have a valve cover gasket that I'm going to be switching out because of that leak that I mentioned. And lastly, I have these exhaust spring bolts. I broke one of them, so I'm going to just replace both of them just to make sure everything's good. But yeah, I'll probably do that in the middle of doing my valve cover. And then of course, once I do change the valve cover gasket, I'm going to be changing the oil and putting this magnetic drain plug. Oh, and I also got a new tool. It's pretty nice. It extends so I can get more leverage on those tough bolts. I like it. I got it from Home Depot. It's Husky. Okay, so I got the wheel and spacer out, so I'm gonna go ahead and test fit the 10mm spacers to see if they'll actually clear the Brembo brakes. Okay, so I got the wheel on just so you can see how much clearance there is. There's very little clearance. I would say about 5mm, but I think that's enough. I just have to be extra careful every time I take my wheel off so that I don't scratch my calipers, which I spent so much time painting and prepping. So it's actually really convenient that the brake line is long enough to reach down to the floor, so I don't have to hang my caliper off anything. Okay, so just to show you guys real quick what I'm dealing with, that's the lower ball joint right there. You can see it's all torn up. There's my tie rod, and terrible, just terrible. This here's the spindle or axle nut, and there's a little area here that is pushed in, so we're gonna use some kind of screwdriver or something that's flat to get in there and hammer that out. And I'll show you how I do that. Spray some penetrating oil on the spindle and around the area, just so we can make sure that we have the easiest time we can removing it. Basically, this nut has a retaining clip, so we're gonna take that off and we're gonna undo that castle nut is what it's called. 91 degrees, give or take. It's hot in here, okay? I don't want to turn the fan on because one, it sucks, and two, it makes a lot of noise, and I don't want that in my videos. So yeah, moving on. There's the castle nut. I think you can tell why they gave it that name. The front wheel drive hub holder. There we go. So this part is going to go onto the bottom part of the ball joint and try to push it up. So we'll see if it works. Damn, that actually scared the crap out of me. That was really loud. But it came out. Look at this thing. That is so bad. It's literally coming apart. Okay, so I took a little break to try and figure out whether I'm gonna try to put the studs in myself. And I decided that I'm just gonna take them to a shop. There's a shop down the street that I called and asked them how much they would charge me if I brought the knuckle to them and had them put the studs on, and they said they'll do it for free. So that's pretty awesome. I'm gonna see if I can take it to them tomorrow and see if they'll put the new studs in. They have a shop press, so that'll make things a lot easier, and I don't have to chop or cut anything, cut the studs like I've seen in some YouTube videos. So yeah, that's pretty good. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go ahead and install the new ball joint. Okay, so the way this works is this tube here is actually covering the entire area of the ball joint. So what I'll do is I'll turn this, and then this is going to press the ball joint into this tube. So that actually came out so much easier than it should have. I just want to show that I should have done this a long time ago. There it is. It didn't even have a retaining clip. I think it just needs one more turn to go all the way in. Okay, so I'm having some issues putting the retaining clip in because I need a needle nose plier that when I press it like this, it opens instead of closes, so that I can actually get this thing in. So yeah, I think I'm gonna wait till tomorrow. I'm not gonna put this back on the car today, so it's alright. I'll probably just go to Home Depot and see if I can find the correct needle nose pliers to get this thing in. So right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and change the ball joint, not the ball joint, but the tie rod and the sway bar end link, which should be pretty simple. So here's the old tie rod. It's all beat up. It's really bad. Don't want to be driving around with this. One thing that's also worth mentioning is that in order to loosen up the tie rod and take it off, there's this nut here, and you have to keep that nut in the same spot so that you don't mess up your alignment. For these, you're gonna need a 14mm socket. So I actually had to unbolt the sway bar from the bottom over here so that I can move it enough to get it all out. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the left side, and then I'll be done for the night. I'm gonna wait till tomorrow to continue the video once I get this extended studs in at the mechanic shop. So I went to a shop to see if they could put my studs in. So it turns out that in order for them to do the job, they would have to press out the bearings, which I already knew, but they said that if they do press out the bearings, that I'll have to replace them. And each one of these bearings is about $76 each from Honda. So I have to buy that, wait for it to get here, and then I'll take it to the mechanic. I'm thinking in the future I might go ahead and swap out the Type R suspension into my RSX. My only worry is that rotors for the Type R are really expensive. They'll run me about $300 for some good ones. But thankfully, you don't have to replace rotors that often. I think I will do that once I turn this RSX from my daily driver to my fun car, just like my Miata. My Miata is not my daily driver. My daily driver is the RSX. So once this is not my daily driver, I think I'll go ahead and do that swap. I don't know what I'm trying to get as a daily driver. Maybe a Honda Accord wagon or something that's good on gas, that is reliable. I don't know, something good. I was actually thinking about getting a TL or a TSX. I think that'll be a really good daily driver. Alright, so I actually started rambling too much, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip to when I have my bearings in my hubs, and we can move on with this project.